Hello, I'm Bee. Come along with me and let's talk about something a little bit different today. It's really been on my heart to talk about the current climate in our society. And I'm speaking specifically about American society, although I do see this in other societies, in other nations. It seems to be a predominant theme, and that theme is divisiveness. And um, I'm just very disturbed by the level of divisiveness that exists in society today and how much it really interferes with our ability to live a healthy and thriving lives. And what it does is it prevents us from being able to connect with one another. It limits our compassion and our empathy and our ability to relate to one another, our ability to remember the humanity of one another. And it's very disturbing. It's everywhere we look. And I was thinking about this specifically. Someone I love works in the service industry, and and at a place downtown. And there was recently a show that happened downtown that had a lot of people who ascribed to certain political ideology and certain philosophical ideologies that don't really perhaps blend well with their assumed and projected image of the people that were serving them. So I'm not sure that's exactly how I want to say that, but the people that were serving them appeared different than the people that were being served. And the people that were being served were very rude and actually wound up getting kicked out of the establishment and blacklisted from the establishment because they were so rude. And they used actual slurs, bigoted slurs, known slurs, not something that we're just making up out of the blue or someone is pretending to be offended, but a real thing. And so they were kicked out. And I just was thinking about that today and just praying over it and thinking about everybody involved and how we've all been sort of tucked into our little information silos, sequestered away from one another. We've all been put into our little boxes, and we have a conservative box, and we have a liberal box, and we're not sure what to do with people who don't fit into one of those boxes. But there's this tendency that if someone who has certain ideologies that match with a conservative, then they get stuck in a conservative box. Or if they have certain ideologies that match with a liberal, then they get stuck in a liberal box. And until someone realizes that maybe they have some overlap, and then they get stuck in the canceled box. And from either side, how dare you not be completely loyal to every tenet of our ideology? And it's something we hear a lot of people talk about, wokeism, or the woke MOB, and how there's this tendency in liberal circles to push cancel culture and to be offended at a lot of things. But what I'm noticing is that tendency actually goes beyond either liberal or conservative. I see it happening on both sides. I see both sides participating in that kind of cancel culture and the boycott culture and the calling people out and pointing people and blaming and shaming and naming them and doxing them and going after them and going after their jobs and going after their families and going after their reputations and trying to tear them down and bring them down and really come against them. And what's really apparent to me as someone who doesn't really fit in either box and someone who pays attention to the rhetoric of both of those ideologies and their sort of subcultural ideologies that fit around them, is that it's not one another that is the enemy. That we all, no matter what, no matter who we might vote for, no matter what issues we think are important to stand on, no matter what our personal moral code is, no matter who we love or how we love, we all want essentially the same thing. And that same thing is the ability to thrive in the world, the ability to be well in our bodies and in our minds, the ability to be around people that we love and value, and the ability to walk around in the world without being assaulted, either physically or verbally, and generally peace. Generally, most people want peace. And that made me really think about how it is true that we all bleed red. It doesn't matter what color we are. It doesn't matter what even nationality we are. It doesn't matter what our spiritual or religious beliefs are. It doesn't matter who raised us. It doesn't matter who we live with. None of those things matter. We all bleed red. We are all a part of humankind. And that is that really corny saying, wouldn't it be nice if we could be both human and kind? And that's such a true thing. It's never been more true than now. We have been divided, and that is not accidental. And we might have different ideas about how we go about thriving and how we go about having wellness and how we go about loving and how we go about creating peace in the world. We might have different ideas even about how we can unify. But the main thing is that that's generally speaking what we all want. We all have dreams, we all have aspirations, we all have desires, we all have family, we all have generally the same ideas and desires for life for ourselves and the people that we love. And those have been, the way that we go about achieving those things have been turned into these bridges, right, that have gone too far for other people. So there are people who deeply, deeply, deeply value life and want to live a life that adheres to the 10 Commandments. And I think most of us can agree that generally the 10 Commandments are really great, right? The idea that we don't steal, we don't lie, we don't covet after what other people have, we don't try and when everybody knows that when someone is jealous of what someone else has, that they kind of become a bitter person, and that envy is a toxic trait, and that it's better just to work on your own life and stop being bitter that someone else has something that you want. Instead, go out there and get it. And what's another one? Valuing life. We all agree it's okay. It's not okay to murder, right? It's not okay to take someone's life. And that is, right now, that's a very hot and contested issue in this country because of the argument about abortion, the argument for abortion and the argument against abortion, and is it murder or is it not murder, and who gets to say what it is, and who gets to say who makes that decision. And there's a lot of complexities, I think, to that issue. As far as like the legal side of it goes, it's very complex, and I think it's important to have that conversation fully, and have the conversation around all the issues that are around it as well, fully, without backing off of any particular part of that conversation, and also without vilifying and demonizing one another in that process, right? How can we come together and have that conversation? How can we find a way as a society to have these difficult conversations that have been used to pit us against each other? And I say that very intentionally, the word used. It is on purpose that we have been pitted against each other. It is not accidental. And we might even disagree about that, whether or not it's accidental, whether or not who are the ones who caused this to happen. But I'm going to tell you something that I think about that right now. And I don't think we need to worry about who the human beings are. Who are the human beings, or what is their ideology that caused them to pursue a certain law or a certain policy to put forward, okay? That's not as important. Even the funding, even who paid for it, that's not what is important in this conversation right now. We can have that conversation in other areas, and I think that might be a conversation to have. That is an important conversation to have. You know, who funded it? What was their ideology? What was the reason that they decided to fund that policy? Who promoted it? Where did that come from? What is the root of it? And why are they pursuing this policy? I think these are always important questions to ask, but right now, I think what's more important is that we acknowledge that behind every human being, there is a battle between good and evil going on. There is a battle between dark and light going on. No matter what your spiritual or religious beliefs might be, that's another area where most of us can agree. Most of us, anyone who has any kind of a inclination towards spirituality, no matter what it is, will tell you that there is a light side and there's a dark side, and it's in battle. All of our popular culture talks about that, the light and the dark, and the battle between the light and the dark. Generally speaking, the New Age, even witchcraft and the occult talk about this, the light and the dark, or the left-hand path and the right-hand path. And you know, even gamers talk about it, right? Even gamers talk about you know, what's neutral good and neutral evil and all of these things. And so I think it's important that we just acknowledge that there's good and evil. There's good and evil inside of ourselves. We all have a tendency. We all have tendencies. We all have things that we battle with. We want to be good. We want to be good people. Generally speaking, I think most people want to be good, and they want to do good in their families, in their communities, and in society. Most people want to contribute good to the world. They want to do good things. And at the very least, they don't want to create harm. They don't want to harm anyone. And that is so important to acknowledge, that is an inherent desire and part of being a human being. is that we generally speaking want to do good. We want to be good. We want to be helpful, at minimum, to the people that we love, and many of us to the greater world. We want to contribute something of value to the greater world. We want to be known as a good person. We want to have a reputation as a good person. And yet, we all struggle with that. We all struggle with being good, with doing good, with overcoming the other side of our nature, which is the selfish side of our nature, the side of our nature that really gets offended easily and thinks solely of its own needs and desires and puts oneself first. That part of ourself that sort of is laissez-faire about what other people think or how they might feel or how our actions might impact them. We don't want to go too deep into thinking about that. We want to avoid that. We don't want to admit our mistakes. We don't want to say that we are sorry or ask for forgiveness, because that would show that we are weak or that we are needy or soft. We don't want to be soft in this world. Hang on a second.